Hey, Viking fans, this is Keith Millard, and you are listening to the One Bar and Lupagus Show. Go Vikes!
All right, welcome back to the One Bar and Lupagus Show. I am Lupagus, and we are Skoling with the Enemy. We have Mike Killi here from Brownie Postgame. Mike, how the heck are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Nick. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Thanks for joining us. All right, let's hop right into this. We got Browns, the 2-1 Browns coming to Minnesota against the 1-2 Vikings. We lost to your division foes, the Bengals, in week 1, and a heartbreaker against the Cardinals. So a team we're a little bit better than our 1-2 record. So just be ready for that. All right, Mike, first question. So the Browns always kind of been the laughing stock of the NFL for many, many years. They had the 0-16 season. Last year, though, they finally got some success. They actually went to the playoffs, won a game, and then they pushed the Chiefs right to the brink. I mean, how did that feel, finally getting some success in Cleveland?
It was a very foreign feeling for us as Browns fans. It was very emotional for me. It was a season. It was the best season of my adult life, and honestly, probably my entire life, because I was a little bit. I mean, I was a fan when I was a kid in the '80s, but not like this. So the fact that we were able to win, 11 games in the regular season, the last game against the Steelers, where they, had benched a lot of their starters and, whatever, but we pulled it off. And then we had to go the next week to Pittsburgh to play them at home with their starters. And everybody thought we were going to get blown away, including, a couple of the asshole people that represent Cleveland media. We're literally going on the radio to Pittsburgh radio stations saying that we had no chance to win. Stefanski was out with COVID, who you guys know quite well. So he wasn't even there for the game coaching. And we were able to beat the Steelers, and it was a magical type season that, the cards didn't really fall in our favor in terms of like being able to put it together all the way. I think if we would have had Odell the whole season and we were able to not have some of the injuries and just constant COVID, every week COVID issues that we had in Cleveland for whatever, I think we were the team that was hit the hardest, because of course we were, So, but yeah, last season was pretty amazing, and we're off to a pretty good start this season so far. And we're, looking forward to taking you guys on in the Dome this weekend.
Heck yeah. It's the bank now. It's not the Dome anymore. We got rid of that dome when the snow crashed that roof. So, all right, let's.
So that's a good point then. I'm glad you said that, because we, as Browns fans, and I can't speak for all of them, I can just speak for myself. It is so, when we play the NFC teams, it's just foreign to us.
Mm-hmm.
The NFC football and NFC teams in general, we get our one division every year, and then they sprinkle in one or two, but it's like we don't focus enough on the NFC. So I was trying to do some research into the Vikings and into what you guys were doing, and I don't know. It's tough. Like, I could talk all day about AFC stuff, but NFC, I'm like, meh.
Yeah, no, I get it. So you mentioned you're pretty happy with the start. They're 2-1 after the first 3 games. Is this kind of how you thought things would go?
Yeah, actually, it's exactly how I thought things would go. I thought we had a chance to. I thought, honestly, that we were going to beat the Chiefs. I thought we, I don't do sports betting, thank God, but I thought we had an adequate chance to beat the Chiefs, and I think we gave them a really good game.
Mm-hmm.
It came down to the wire, and unfortunately, they got all the breaks in that game. We had a couple just miscues that in order to go into a game like that in Kansas City, first game of the season, we needed to play a fairly flawless game. And unfortunately, we had 2 big turnovers and then a muffed punt that was essentially like another turnover. That was ultimately the story of the game. because our offense was rocking, our defense was doing adequate at times, and yeah, so the Chiefs game was, it was unfortunate. I don't think we have seen the best that the Cleveland Browns can offer yet this season. I do not think that we've put together 4 complete quarters where we have been on just operating on all cylinders on both offense and defense and special teams.
Not to cut you off, that Browns Chiefs, I mean, you guys meet again in the playoffs this year. That might be becoming a rivalry here. I mean, you played last year in the playoffs, you played this year regular season. If you guys play again, I mean, that's a team that's very familiar with each other. And that's almost like, the Vikings and the Seahawks, not in the same division, but we tend to play them every single year. I could see that kind of developing to a rivalry.
It could be, I think the team that's kind of closest to like a rivalry outside of their division with the Chiefs would be like probably the Ravens, because they've had just such a hard time beating them. And then, they got lucky, in the game that they had where Edwards-Helaire just fumbled the ball on the game, ultimately became the game losing drive, where they finally were able to just come over the hump on that one and beat them. But yeah, I mean, one of the things I'm most afraid of, though, in terms of playoffs and late season with the Browns is like, I think the Browns, I would love to see playoff football in Cleveland. It has been far too long. And us having to go to all those away games, I think was just kind of it's tough. It adds extra elements of issues when you're going away. So I'd love to see it if we can keep going and have a good season. Who knows? Like maybe we control our own destiny and we host games in the playoffs. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be something to see Cleveland hosting a playoff game. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So let's go back here. Let's talk about the big connection here with the Browns and the Vikings. Obviously, head coach Kevin Stefanski, he comes to Cleveland. First of all, this is kind of a 3-part question, so be ready for it. How is he welcomed? Right. How is he looked at now? And were you prepared for how good looking this guy is?
Oh man. So I'll take that each question one by one here. Number one, he was, I don't think he was given the type of welcome that I think he deserved. I'll admit, my dad and I both wanted, we wanted McCarthy, and here's the reason why. All right, so we've been burned by coaches basically since the beginning of the Browns coming back in '99. Right, we've just had below average coaches. Butch Davis put together one decent year. Romeo Crennel had a decent year, but like in terms of like the overall quality of coaches, they've been pretty poor. And then as of late, the Browns coaches have been just the bottom of the barrel, scraping trash. Chudzinski, Mike Pettin, Hugh Jackson, the losingest coach in NFL history, right? Yeah. Greg Williams coming in there as an interim coach, Freddie Kitchens, who can't even, he can't even spell his own name. I mean, we had coaches that were just amateurs, and going back beyond that, Mangini, Romeo. I mean, the guys that we had were just not good. And so when that hiring position kind of opened up, because Freddie Kitchens didn't have the type of season that everybody expected the Browns to have with the amount of talent that we had, Mike McCarthy was a guy that I looked at as having veteran presence, being somebody who's won in the past, someone who has a Super Bowl ring, who's won in big games. Now, a lot of that was, people argue, well, it was the team, it was Aaron Rodgers, blah, 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 right? And then, things didn't go well at the end of that situation in Green Bay. But I looked at that situation going, I can't believe the Haslams are going to hire another coach who's going to have to learn on the job. Somebody who was with one organization for 14 years that had okay success, but it wasn't like Stefanski's offenses were tearing up the league for a decade. They were just fairly good. Mm-hmm. And I think So I don't, when I go back to like thinking about my reaction to it and a lot of Browns fans' reaction to it, it was disappointment because we felt like we were hiring another guy who was just, we're just rolling the dice to see if this guy was going to work out. And we've done that so many times. Now, very quickly, we all went, wow, were we wrong? I have publicly, you can look it up on Twitter. I publicly went out there and I was like, I was so incredibly wrong about Kevin Stefanski that I questioned like my entire existence on this planet.
Wow.
I was so wrong about Kevin Stefanski that I just looked at it and I was like, at this point, I have to just not be surprised by anything anymore. And then I looked at it and I said, okay, well, why is he successful? What is it? And a little bit of background for your audience about the Browns. You know, we had the Haslam family who took over the Browns a couple of years ago. Owners of Pilot Flying J, guys based out of Tennessee, you know, good old boy family, more money than God, and just couldn't figure out how to run an NFL organization. I mean, the reports that were coming out, the leaks, everything was just a disaster in the organization. And like, as you mentioned before, as you were opening it up, saying that the Browns were the laughing stock of the league. And a lot of it came down to the front office and certain things that the Haslam family was just inept and incompetent about running an organization. So then they hire Andrew Berry, the GM, to take over from John Dorsey, John Dorsey is the guy who drafted Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb and Denzel Ward and, you know, those guys. Mm-hmm. So I looked at John Dorsey as like kind of the guy. I gave him a lot of the credit for the rebuild, right? Because anybody on the planet could have drafted Myles Garrett, right? After going 1-15.
Yep. You
know, 1-15, 0-16, and it's like we had to pull the trigger on a quarterback. I think, you know, I still do think that the the verdict is out yet about, well, is it Josh Allen? He's looking really good. Is it Lamar Jackson, who's had an MVP season? Is it Sam Darnold, who's off to a 3-0 start in a new place in Carolina? Or is it Baker Mayfield, who was off to an amazing start as a rookie, then floundered a little bit, and came back last year? And, you know, I don't think he's quite gotten the respect that he should have earned last year just yet. But anyway, to answer your question, I was dead wrong as Stefanski. I am just very much, I couldn't be happier with him now. And I hope the Browns, I was watching your show that you guys did where you're talking about Stefanski or Zimmer. And I was like, I think you guys are, anybody out there who's like, I'm backing Zim. Like, you guys are nuts if you're backing Zim when you got Stefanski, the hot coach. Literally, like, he's not just the hot coach. He's like the hot, coach.
Yeah,
right?
You answered that one.
So,
I went with Stefanski, just to let you know.
Well, you're correct.
You got to be. All right. Again, I'm here with Mike Killi from Brownie Postgame. The links will be down below. Check them out. Follow his stuff. Harass them on Sunday, all you can, especially in their live postgame after the Vikings pulled a victory. We'll see what happens. All right. So what's the strength? What is the strength of the 2021 Cleveland Browns?
Everything goes through Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. The whole team, everything. Mm-hmm. It is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt who are going to run the ball a lot, and our offensive line who's going to open up holes. Now, our offensive line has been so far. We've just had a series of issues with staying healthy with the offensive line over the last 2 years. This year, in particular, with Jedrick Wills, who's our left tackle, second-year guy. He has had an ankle injury that happened. He stepped on one of our tight ends, David Njoku, and it kind of rolled his ankle his first game. And he just hasn't looked great since. I don't know if he's just toughing it out or what, but he's it's not that anybody's been a liability, so I'm not trying to say that, but I think he's playing hurt. And I think that's one of the riskier factors there. But Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb are the ones who do it. We got Odell Beckham, who's back now, who had a really good game last week. Very productive game, 5 catches, something like 59, 60 yards, whatever it was with that. And then Baker Mayfield on offense, just being able to be comfortable, not have to throw, over 35 times. There's stats all over the place about when he does. The Browns never win. And then on defense, obviously you got Myles Garrett, who just had the best game of his career last week against the completely ridiculous Chicago Bears. So if you guys can stop, I don't know what the Bears are doing. I mean, there's rumors out there that Nagy was like sabotaging the team and stuff. I looked at that. I thought that was a pathetic effort. You have to double team Myles Garrett. You have to, or you have to at least chip him with a running back. If you're not doing that, he's going to get to Kirk Cousins, and he's going to get to him often. And if he doesn't even get to him for the sack, he's going to disrupt them.
Yeah,
that is the biggest thing. It's Myles Garrett. You have to neutralize him in some capacity, and then you got to stop the run. You can do that. You got a chance of beating us.
Well, our run defense has been horrible this year, but the only thing that gives me a little bit of hope is we faced Chandler Jones after he came off a 5-sack game, and we held him to 0. So we got a fullback named C.J. Ham, a blocking tight end named Ben Elfson, who kind of help out Rashad Hill, who is filling in right now for Christian Darrisaw. So, yeah, those two things definitely keep me up at night when I think about the Browns coming to town. I want to go back to Baker Mayfield. And you mentioned you watched our live where we were talking about Stefanski or Zimmer. But I was surprised with all of our viewers who were really disrespecting on Mayfield. Personally, I watched him in the Browns game or the Bears game, and I was surprised how elusive he was in the pocket, like avoiding pressure, like the things he was doing, like the way he was bending. I mean, he looked like he was dead to rights. He got out of it many times. How's Baker seen in Cleveland? Are you guys happy with him? Is he your franchise quarterback? Is he the guy you guys are moving forward with and definitely building around?
I think if anybody, there are elements of the Browns fans that are out there that are negative towards Baker. But it's a minority, and it's like a really silly group. I look at Baker, and me and my co-hosts, I mean, we look at Baker from we hold him accountable. We criticize him fairly, but I think Baker is. I think clearly he's the guy. I mean, I do not want to go through another 40 quarterbacks to try to figure out a guy to get. We've gone down the path of trying to get the has-been quarterbacks, the guys with like a little tread left on the tire. Like, I don't want to go back down that. It's a nightmare scenario in the NFL. You could get lucky. You absolutely could. But you could also get burned a billion ways. And for what Baker has shown, what he's done so far in Cleveland, I mean, he's earned it from me. He really has. So I'm a Baker fan. I think he's like as close to as good as you're going to get in today's NFL, outside of going, well, we're going to roll the dice and make a change. And I think he's clearly the leader of the team. I think statistically he's having a pretty decent year, although I think the thing that everybody has to pump the brakes on and realize is that he's not going to throw. He shouldn't throw 50 times a game. He's not going to throw for 400 or 500 yards. He's not going to have 5 touchdown games, although he's capable of it. He's not going to do that when you have the entire fourth quarter that he's going to hand the ball off. Mm-hmm. If we're winning, he's not throwing. So that's a little bit of, like, you have to look at the situation. What he's being asked to do in Cleveland is get a lead, take care of the ball, and then hand it off to 2 guys that are going to close the game out. And that's the strategy. So for me, I love him, and I hope we extend him, and I hope we make him a Brown for as long as we can, because I really just don't want to go back to the quarterback carousel. Yeah. Back to the rookies or free agents or trade. I don't want to do any of that kind of stuff.
Are you guys a fan of his commercials or not?
I think his commercials are okay. I actually think he's a better actor.
He's really good
than I thought he was going to be. I mean, he's convincing.
Yeah.
And him and Jedrick Wills too. He's the guy, the offensive lineman who's in a lot of his. I think Jedrick is fantastic.
That's Jedrick who shows up in those? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Jedrick's the guy. He's in the book club commercial, and he's the one who's buying back his shoulder pads.
I didn't know that.
And
Okay.
Baker's wife does great. I mean, it's okay. So I'll tell you this, and this is kind of the meme that goes around with the Browns. When we win, show me the Progressive commercials, show me the Hulu commercial. Yeah. But it was tough the season where he got all of those endorsement deals, and then he ends up throwing like 3 interceptions in a game we lose, and it's like, you don't want to see that. It's like, there's my quarterback after he throws his 3rd interception. There he is, trying to get me to buy car insurance, or home insurance, whatever they're selling there. So yeah, I mean, they're okay. They're a little cheesy, but sure. We have a quarterback that actually has marketability. It's wild in Cleveland.
Yeah, that is crazy. All right, I don't know how much you've delved into the Minnesota Vikings, but if you're going to pick one area of the Vikings that concerns you the most this Sunday, what is it?
Oh, well, if Cook is playing, then Cook. But I think it's really your passing attack. And, I have accepted the fact that I think Kirk Cousins is going to get his. We have talented, like, defensive backs. I don't know if they're being mismanaged or actually I do. I think they're being mismanaged. I'll come out and say it. So far, although we had a great game defensively last week, for all intents and purposes, the best defensive game I've seen the Browns play maybe in the last 20 years we had last week. It was incredible. Like, they couldn't do anything. But I think we play this very soft zone defense, or for the first 2 games, we played a very soft zone defense that was very frustrating. Letting Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill get off the ball, letting very mediocre Texans wide receivers, giving them 10 to 15 yards to run routes. It's just like, it's frustrating to see that when you have Pro Bowl guys like Denzel Ward and on the other side, before Greg Newsome, our first round pick, got hurt. Let's like chip him, get up there, like bump him off the line, do something. There wasn't a lot of aggressiveness on defense. And Myles Garrett even came out and was like, look, I'm frustrated. I'm getting double and triple teamed, and then the rest of my team isn't getting it done. And I don't blame the players. The players are doing what they're being asked to do from a scheme perspective. I just think Joe Woods, I mean, I haven't been super impressed by him, although Kevin Stefanski's been incredible. Joe Woods has just been meh. So I gave him a hard time. I give Joe Woods a hard time on Twitter because I'm like, is he awake? Is he in the stadium this week?
Did he block you?
No, I don't think he's even on Twitter.
Okay.
But the thing that concerns me is I think if Kirk Cousins, if they allow him to throw 50 times, it's going to be dangerous because I don't know if we're prepared just yet to handle that. With Cook as well, it's your offense versus our defense is concerning. But I don't know what the line is on the game, but I
think you're favored by a couple.
I would say, yeah, and I don't mean to be no disrespect to the Vikings, because I've been talking about it on my show as well, on my channel. Like, this is one game that I circled as like, this is a concerning game because you guys throw and you have a quarterback who can throw and you have receivers who can catch, and that historically has not gone well for the Browns. But if we can get up and we can maintain that lead and keep you guys off the field with the running attack and eat up clock, maybe we'll be okay. But yeah, Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook are the 2 guys who concern me the most.
And I mean, Cousins is absolutely locked in right now too. So he's playing probably the best of his career. So yeah, and that's
8 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah,
I mean, he's due.
Yeah, they're running RPO with him right now. That's how confident they are in Kirk Cousins, and that guy's not fast, so it's crazy.
I'll tell you, like, what do you guys think? Because you're asking me about Mayfield, what we think about Mayfield. I'm interested in knowing, what do you guys think of Cousins?
It's funny because it's a split in the fan base, really. A lot of people love Kirk Cousins. A lot of people hate Kirk Cousins. Actually, probably more haters than anything. But you got to look at what this guy has had for O-lines. It's been complete crap since the day he got here. He's been running for his life. He's been thrown with pressure in his face. Yes, he did have a couple bad, fumble snaps or get the ball swat out at the worst possible times. But personally, I love Kirk Cousins. I think he's done a hell of a job since he came in. And then this year, he's really kind of taken the next step finally to making this offense his, where it's not so much Delvin Cook show. He's kind of, taken over as the guy. So, and the line's been playing better. And then maybe that's another reason why he's been playing so well lately. The O-line's been giving him some time. And Kirk Cousins with time is a dangerous guy. So
I think Kirk Cousins, to me, is a guy that it kind of has the same syndrome as Baker in terms of talented, good arm, accurate, but when he throws the interception, which statistically, if you look at him like on Pro Football Folk and you just look at the stats, you go, man, he's really good. But it comes down to when the interceptions are thrown, the win-loss record, and those are the two things. It was like you look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady can throw 2 or 3 interceptions a game, but they bounce back from them and they win the game.
Yep.
And whereas Kirk Cousins was plagued a lot of his career, and honestly, Baker Mayfield to a degree as well so far, when he throws the interception, it's not good. It's just really bad times.
Yep.
So I think there's a little bit of similarity between the two fan bases in terms of like how we feel about our quarterbacks today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Again, I'm here with Mike Killi from Brownie Postgame. Be sure to check him out in the link below. A couple more questions before you wrap this thing up. All right. Give me one guy, underrated Brown, who's not getting enough love. Who is one Browns player that is playing above expectations and no one's really talking about?
Nobody's talking about. It's weird.
We're in the NFC. We probably don't know much of other than your stars. So.
Okay. All right. That's fair. So I think on offense, there's a kid who's returning the kicks, and he's like a utility guy. He can run. He can be a running back. He can be a wide receiver. He can play in the slot. He's obviously a return guy. This guy, Demetric Felton, number 25 rookie out of UCLA. We stole him out of the 5th round, and he is a playmaker. Like, this guy is scary. So Demetric Felton has kind of rounded out our team in terms of we really had pathetic special teams from return perspective in the past.
Yeah.
He's really owned that role, and he's one of those guys that, like, he's so explosive and dangerous that we have to just figure out ways, like throw him little screen passes or like stuff like that. We have to just get him the ball because he's really good. So other than your Kareem Hunt, your Odell Beckham, your Nick Chubbs, those type guys who are just the big names that everybody knows, this kid Demetric Felton is really good. Now, the other guy in offense I'd look out for if I was you guys is the other rookie, and Anthony Schwartz. He was the fastest guy in the draft, runs a 4.2. So he's got world-class speed. And, we're putting him on, in a place where that speed can be dangerous, right? So those are two guys I would look at on offense. And then defense, our 2nd round pick, the kid out of Notre Dame, they call him JOK because most people can't pronounce his name. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is number 28 linebacker. He's been starting in place of Sione Takitaki, and he is currently the number 1 rated linebacker in PFF.
Yeah. I watched,
which is like something we've never had. So
I was watching the game for like 10 minutes, and I think he made 3 plays in that 10-minute span. So the Joker. Yeah. I can't believe he went to round 2. That was insane.
Well, so what happened was, because my dad and I were doing the draft. We did it live and got like kicked off of YouTube a couple of times. Like, they took down our stream because we were actually showing the draft, and it was not a good idea to do. But we got to the end of the draft, and after we drafted Greg Newsome, it was good. We needed that position because we didn't know if Greedy Williams was going to come back. By the way, Greg Newsome's injured, so you're going to have Greedy Williams, who's coming back from like a really weird injury last year. But he played well a couple snaps last game, so we'll see. But So the rumor, there's some rumor that got spread that he had some weird heart condition.
Oh,
and so that was the rumor that was spread really late in because everybody was thinking that Owusu Koromoa was going to go like late teens, early 20s type. All the mocks are having him there.
Yep.
And then he was gone in the second round. The first round's gone, and we're like, what's going on? And nobody knew what was happening.
Yeah.
And then day 2 comes around, and then we're in the middle of the second round. He's still there, and that's when Andrew Barry, our GM, made the move to jump up to get him.
Yeah.
And he has been just incredible. Micah Parsons, the guy who came off the draft board first from the linebacker position of the Cowboys, is currently ranked 3rd out of all linebackers. He's played more snaps than the JOK, but I'm very, very happy with what level production we're getting from this kid so far. So
yeah.
So he's a good one to look out for.
All right. So if you could let's say there was a open draft, you could take one player out the purple, put him in the brown and orange and white, who would it be?
Well, right now, like Thielen, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Just because Jarvis is out, so Adam Thielen would be good. I mean, I would take Cook, but we don't really need it. I don't know what we do with it.
You guys don't need another running back.
Yeah, we don't need another running back.
That's just greedy. That's just getting greedy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't need Cousins. I don't know that much about your defense, honestly, to be able to say, but we could always use another really good short-handed veteran wide receiver out there to go. I mean, imagine if we had Thielen and OBJ and Jarvis at the same time out there.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like a Pro Bowl team.
It would be crazy. It would be absolutely crazy. And, Stefanski loved to feed Thielen when he was here. So I'm sure that would continue in Cleveland if he were to end up there. So speaking of Cleveland, I got to ask you this, and I just thought of this one. I don't know how much you watched the draft day movie. I want to get the perspective of that from a Browns fan. Were you guys offended that your team was the featured team? If you made that trade, what would you do? I mean, how does that movie go over in Cleveland?
I think people, Browns fans, Browns community was half fine with it. It was a weird time for the Browns because it was like during the Johnny Manziel. Well, it was before this. So we had Brian Hoyer. So it was kind of mirroring real life in a way. So it was we had Brian Hoyer, who was, just a kind of a career backup guy who comes home to Cleveland because he's from Ohio. And he's now the Browns quarterback, who's like it's just a typical Browns quarterback, like a mediocre, below average guy that's getting a shot, in Cleveland. And then they went out there and they ended up, after that movie came out, they ended up going out there and making they violated what happened in the movie, and they go and draft Johnny Manziel.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the movie itself, I think it was fine. I was more offended by like the fans that they put in the movie, the pumpkin guy. Who's just, so we have this guy who wears a pumpkin stuff, very, very controversial Browns fan. Very controversial Browns fan. I think there's a lot of people out there who feel like the pumpkin guy doesn't represent the Browns as well as we feel like we should be represented. It's just annoying that we have like this adult cosplay member who's like wears a pumpkin and is like on TV every game, doing that stuff. And he's taken some of my content and republished it without giving me credit, which is always
really.
It's frustrated me. Yeah,
we
I'm
actually
like, come on.
We had a similar guy, a Viking guy, always dressed up Viking horns and helmet and purple face, and there was some kind of falling out with him too, where he actually ended up doing a video for the Packers, like ripping on us after. So something with these weird fan base mascots, it just doesn't pan out. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. All right.
Yeah, there's always like a couple people who are like I want to dress up like like super fans, they call them.
Yep.
In general, I don't really have a problem with it. I'm like, go be a fan however you want. If you want to dress up like characters, go ahead, do it, have fun.
Yeah.
I think there's just like, you also have to be a good person underneath that. And like, I think that's where like the rub and the pumpkin guy comes in, but nonetheless, I digress.
All right. We got one more question from Mike Killi from Brownie Postgame. Again, check it out in the link below. All right. It's just the final questions prediction. How do you see this game playing out on Sunday?
I'm not going to give you a score. I don't like to do it. I'm never right. I'm never even close to right on the score. So I stopped doing it a while ago. My co-hosts will do it. My dad will do it. My friend, Mike Cristano, he'll do it, but I don't do the scores anymore. I think the Browns will win. And I think that it'll be a high scoring game. I think both teams are capable of scoring over 30 points. So if the over is something like under 60, I'd probably do that if you're a sports bettor, but don't take my word for it because I don't really bet.
Yeah. I actually think it's gonna be a low scoring game. I don't know why. I just think it's gonna be kind of a meat grinder. I like your guys' defense. Our defense needs to step up. Our defense has been, for all the money we put into it this offseason, the performance we've gotten through 3 games has been horrible. They did tighten up the second half against the Seahawks, played pretty well, shut them out. But I mean, especially the run defense has not been good. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm expecting kind of an ugly game for some reason. You got Stefanski against Zimmer. They know each other well. Who's going to outsmart the other one? What are they going to do? I mean, it's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be fun. It's always kind of fun playing the NFC teams that we don't regularly get to see. Last year it was the pathetic NFC East.
Yeah.
This year with you guys, we're playing Green Bay. We're playing the Packers on Christmas Day in Green Bay.
Nice. So
I'm sure you guys can appreciate this as fellow content creators, that Christmas Day is just basically ruined for me.
Yeah.
In terms of like
we had
show
it last
prep
year. We had it last year. It's not great. I don't like Christmas Day games.
Luckily, we're the late
family. Game. Yeah. No, it's brutal. Well, good luck against the Packers on Christmas. I definitely want you to win that one. It'll be the best gift I'll get.
Hey, we'll appreciate the support. I mean, like I said, there's really no bad blood between our organizations. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Vikings fans. Interestingly, it's just an interesting story. When I was in college, I was a waiter at this bar. It was a restaurant in like the Northern Virginia area. And we were a Vikings supporter restaurant.
Really?
In the outside of DC in Northern Virginia. And I mean, I didn't know they existed. I'm like, first of all, East Coast with Vikings is like you never hear of that. And then a whole community of people that came and to watch all the Vikings game together, wearing the helmet with the the horns and everything and getting rowdy. And I had gone to like a lot of the Browns backers bars when I was a little kid. My dad would drag me to like smoky, gross bars because we couldn't watch there was no direct TV, NFL ticket, and we were in central Pennsylvania, so we didn't get to watch the games. So I just had an appreciation for that, and it really always stuck with me that there are very passionate Vikings fans out there, and I think there's a lot of similarities between the Browns fans. Like everybody calls us the dog pound, which is a whole other story, but I think there's a lot of similarities between the passion of your fan base and ours. So it's gonna be a fun game.
It'll be a fun game. And, I think we both had our fair share of heartbreak. Ours always seems to be the most gut-wrenching possible way. You don't just lose games. We get our hearts ripped out and then pissed on. So I don't know if you guys have as much. You look at the game a couple weeks ago against the Cardinals, missed field goal. We're used to it. It happens to us. So we both had fair share of misery. I'm excited for it. It'd be fun to see the Browns come to town. Again, they've always been kind of my backup team. The Vikings were to be shipped away. I think I'd probably be a Browns fan.
Hey, I mean, don't just knock on wood, pray to the football gods that never happens. Because when the Browns left Cleveland in the 90s, I was a freshman. I was in 8th grade, I think, when it all went down, freshman in high school. And I just didn't watch football in the mid 90s, the mid to late 90s. I just stopped watching the NFL because it just hurt. It hurt too much to do it. And, and ever since we've been back, I've got to watch football, but it equally has hurt that we just had really rarely had good teams. So it's a rare time to be a Browns fan. It's exciting because we actually have a product that we can go out there every week and really try to enjoy. And we'll see what happens. This is we're in the window. The window, as they say. So
Sure.
hopefully the window will stay open long enough for something really good to happen, but who knows?
Heck yeah. All right, Mike, appreciate you coming on. Enjoyed our talk. Good luck next week and every week after that. Not so much this Sunday, but again, appreciate it. Again, Brownie Postgame, Mike Killi. Thanks for hopping on. Skoling with the Enemy. All right, guys, that's all we got. Be sure to check out the rest of the vids we'll be having up this weekend. We'll do the props. We'll do our big prediction on Saturday. And always remember to keep your skull in your hole.